and this is just after 6 p.m. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program, and I'm Saad in Bromley in southeast London. And with me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, are you there?
Hello.
Welcome, Gregory. Let me tell you what the weather is like here in London. It's blue sky with a few clouds, nice sunshine, and I will call it warm, not hot or just warm. How is it where you are, and where are you again?
Brussels, the same thing, exactly the same thing.
Okay, same thing. Good, in Brussels as well. So welcome to the show. Dear listeners, this is the Spiritual Discussion Program, and the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And we have a topic for discussion every week. The topic for tonight is Ask, and it shall be given unto you. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. It's a quote from Jesus, which we'll be exploring tonight. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the readers again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is needed, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for tonight's show is Ask, and it shall be given unto you. I'll repeat that. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as I said, this quote, the topic for tonight, ask and it shall be given unto you. It's a quote from Jesus, and I wanted to read from the Bible, from the New Testament. This one is in a few places, but this one I'm going to read is from Luke chapter 11. And I think I'm going to read this whole text. I mean, when I say whole text, it's sort of it gives you the whole background, you can say, to this saying. And so I'm going to read from, as I said, Luke chapter 11. It's verse 11 to verse 13. And it's titled, Jesus is Teaching on Prayer. Jesus is teaching on prayer. One day, Jesus was praying in a certain place. When he had finished, one of his disciples said to him, Lord, teach us to pray, just as John taught his disciples. Jesus said to them, when you pray, say this, Father, may your holy name be honored. May your kingdom come. Give us day by day the food we need. Forgive us our sins, for we forgive everyone who does us wrong. And do not bring us to hard testing. And Jesus said to his disciples, suppose one of you should go to a friend's house at midnight and say to him, Friend, let me borrow 3 loaves of bread. A friend of mine who is on a journey has come to my house, and I haven't got any food for him. And suppose a friend should answer from inside, Don't bother me. The door is already locked, and my children and I are in bed. I can't get up and give you anything. Well, what then? I tell you that even if he will not get up and give you the bread because you are his friend, yet he will get up and give you everything you need because you're not ashamed to keep on asking. And so I say to you, ask and you will receive. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks will receive, and he who seeks will find, and the door will be opened to anyone who knocks. Would any of you who are fathers give your son a snake when he asks for fish? Or would you give him a scorpion when he asks for an egg? Bad as you are, you know how to give good things to your children. How much more then will the Father in heaven give the Holy Spirit to those who ask him? Gregory, that was quite a long reading. And I just want to remind the listeners, the topic we are discussing tonight is ask and it shall be given unto you. And that's, as I say, a quote from Jesus, which I've just read. You could say the story of where it comes from, when Jesus was explaining about prayer. But it was, I would say, more than just prayer. It was, how can I say, well, as the title says, ask, and it shall be given unto you. So, Gregory, let's think in this what I've just read out about this quote, ask. Should we ask for, is it anything we can ask? Let me say it that way. Material things, non-material things. When in this quote of Jesus, does it refer to anything, asking for anything?
Well, thanks for bringing up this particular reading, this particular biblical reading. In the first instance, it must be recalled that the mission of Christ himself is basically a spiritual one. And therefore, his expressions must be looked into in a spiritual context rather than an earthly context where people can ask that their so-called enemies be punished. So it will not be right to say one can ask for anything. As you rightly find, in many cases, a person will ask the Almighty to punish someone whom they perceive as an opponent or as an enemy.
Thank you for that, Gregory. That's a very, very good beginning to set the context. Because yes, when I said ask for anything, and obviously, although I mentioned about material and non-material, but it can be even bad things that we might be asking, and of course, in this particular context, we're asking the Lord here, Lord God, and so asking some bad things, it obviously doesn't make any sense in that context, but at all. So that it just really clarifies that yes, it's not asking for anything and everything, but only. I mean, you gave the background of that. Jesus came on a spiritual mission, and obviously that is to how can I say, to live us aright, to live in a, let's say, happy, joyous, and you could say a noble life. So obviously anything asking bad things obviously is out of the question. So thank you for clarifying that and bringing the context there. And then you mentioned, Gregory, about because my question was also asking about whether it should be spiritual and okay, let's say material and non-material. So can we ask for material things? Let me put it that way. Can we ask for material things from the Lord? Let me put it all in this context.
Of course, many do ask for material things. So that is a possibility.
And so, Okay, so and of course we can ask for spiritual things as well. So if that's okay to ask for material things, but we still question. It's like every petty thing one must ask, or it's like, because somehow when you think about it, oh, it seems, oh, I'm asking for everything. I'm talking in this context of material now. Is that the right approach? Let me put it that way, to basically ask for everything in this material things. Let me put it that way.
The challenge many a person has is not understanding what it means to ask, and would be quite happy to do nothing other than verbally ask for support in getting material things only. And that was why at the beginning, one gave the proper context. First comes the spirit. Subsequently, the power of the spirit activates the physical body. Or to look it from a higher point, it activates the material sphere. Therefore, when spiritual things are concerned, it is possible from a spiritual standpoint to activate the fulfillment of material things. However, one must ask oneself, many a person asks for material things. However, they do not understand the scope of what they are asking. It must be stressed that one must seek diligently. One cannot find. So there are many a person who ask for material things, fold their arms. That means they do not want to get into activities. That physical activity in preparing the reception of the response to one's prayers, be it spiritual, be it material. The environment must be done in such a way such that when the responses come, the personality who made that request must be able to recognize that that is a response to that request they had made. So the problem is always when a request is made and the response does not come on time, or the response does not come in the way they expect it, they give up. So the first thing is that the petitioner must prepare himself or herself in the right way. First, intuitively, and then secondly, intellectually, to be able to recognize the response when it comes.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. You've been breaking down this asking and receiving into the process of what it involves. And so rather than just like a child just asking, but trying to understand the process. We are adults, so we can see how this process actually works, and then that means we can consider before we ask what we ask, and some things, as you say, when you receive, it is not the same as you might expect, or as in the time that you expect. So, or it could be just different. So it's like we have to, like everything we say with the Grail Message, you must weigh and examine. So all these things, when we put out a request, we really must think about this request. So thank you for bringing that out. Now, I began with requesting or asking about how the material, you could say our material wishes or requests. And you said at the beginning in your first answer, Gregory, about Jesus had come on a spiritual mission. So obviously there are also spiritual requests people have. So yeah, I'll just go straight to that question, Gregory. What should we be asking in a spiritual, from a spiritual request? What sort of spiritual request should we be asking?
On a spiritual level, when someone must ask, then it has to be able to recognize those parts which have been woven in nature or woven in creation, such that that particular requester is able to find his or her way. That means the laws which have been woven into creation or into nature will be recognized in such a way that that particular requester is able, through his or her activities, ascend step by step back as a self-conscious human personality back to its origin. That is why the human being, or the spirit germ, first came into existence in order, starting gradually, to become conscious and then self-conscious. So should one ask at all, it should be the help to be able to recognize why at all is in this environment, to be able to wake up and in a step-by-step manner go back to its origin as a self-conscious personality. Any other thing are just extras.
Thank you for that, Gregory. So this spiritual request, should it be in the form of a prayer? That's what the chapter I read from Bible, Luke chapter 11, its title was Jesus Teaching on Prayer. And in the beginning of that chapter, it was talking about the Lord's Prayer. So, I mean, I know that's a specific prayer, but yes, so is that, let me not use that as maybe I will just refer to that as well. So a spiritual request, the way we make a request, is that meant to be a prayer, Gregory? Let me just say it that way. Is it a prayer?
When the expression prayer is used, it is more of an activity not a one-sided activity. As with everything, there is always the preparation to open oneself to recognize or to be able to receive of the power which streams from on high. That process itself, that activity, strictly speaking, is prayer. It is not what many call prayer nowadays, because maybe they kneel down somewhere or stand somewhere or read some. These are only part expression of that which they should be doing. For prayer itself is that ability to recognize, to be able to attract of the power, use it in accordance to build up structures, which structures are not only spiritual structures, but also animistic structures and structures in the world of matter. Once these are fulfilled, that is the prayer. That means from time to time, or almost in all occasions, one is able to open oneself or to ask for strength, to ask for power to be able to achieve this. In that process, the requester strengthens himself or herself. That being the case, is as that requester feels lighter. See, it is drawn up. As to what happened, one will advise many a person, many a listener, to examine this work in the light of truth. There, many a thing will be revealed as prayer comes in and how it works and how it helps the human personality to ascend.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth. Publishing. And as I encourage you, you can to all information said by God. Don't help you. Don't to remind also you want the number space live, the number one space live stream. The next day you're able to listen to the recording of this show, again, you go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1, message, Grail, message, AE, ask, excuse me. If you have any questions or comments, you come to ask us. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 641 958. You can call, text, or, and if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. No, Gregory, my last question I asked about prayer, and we do have various forms of prayer. You could say one is like a formal prayer, like the one I read from this lecture, Luke chapter 11, which is the Lord's Prayer. And then, but you know, when you think about ask and it shall be given unto you, Gregory, you might have a specific request rather than a general, which is in the Lord's Prayer is more general. So what I want to ask you, Gregory, when you have a specific request, I know this might sound a silly question, but I just want to say that because so should one use the Lord's Prayer for a specific, if you have still in something, a specific request in your mind, or because that is how Jesus said, he taught it, Jesus asked him, sorry, the disciples of Jesus asked Jesus how to pray, and this is how he replied. So my question, Gregory, is the Lord's Prayer, should the Lord's Prayer be used for a specific request?
It would be best if a particular example is considered. So one would look at the Lord's Prayer, which prayer is not supposed to be said all at once, but uttered depending on the inner needs of the personality involved. So, though it is given, the needs of each personality varies. Therefore, it can be used for each personality or each particular need, depending on that which solely touches the human personality.
Thank you. And but I still have a question on that, Gregory, because you say if somebody has a very specific request, and the Lord's Prayer sounds more general, so I can't. And you know, we already said earlier that some prayer can be answered and some may not be answered, or it might be answered in a different way. So if we are not asking, if I can say like directly, what is your request, then surely the response also will not be, you know, will not match that request. This is what I wanted to check, you know, ask you.
If one considers, take a specific instance on someone who is on a journey and suddenly there is a threat on that person's life, most of the time the requests, which is based now on fear, becomes a very strong motive in asking for protection. And in doing that, many a person will first wish to cry out with the beginning of that prayer, which is basically our Father. Therefore, it is possible for the personality in any condition to, before opening and asking for help, first recognizing that there is a power which is capable of assisting. And this power can only be reached in a humble fashion. Hence the beginning, our Father, before it lays down its dire request. That is an example. Another part, which if the soul remains humble, will confess to the Father to forgive me or forgive us our trespasses, as we have forgiven those. That calls for purification. For when someone is in dire need, a threat to its life here on earth, many a time the response, even before asking, is to say, oh, may that person be punished. May that person die. Such things will block the assent of the prayer. So should one dare to use the Lord's Prayer in any circumstance, the need is there to purify oneself. For in purifying one's environment, that means his inner thoughts, the assent of the prayer becomes simple. And because it is tied to purity, in that purity, depending on the strength of the purity, the response of these can be miraculous.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. And I'll just take the opportunity in sort of following on from what you've said there. As we know right now, there's a serious fighting going on between Israel and Palestinians, and a lot of suffering, obviously, happening from that. And then some people asking, oh, why is happening to me? Especially, let's say, children. People look at children as innocent. Why they have to suffer this suffering? They didn't cause anything. And this is a question I saw in one, I think it's one news report. So, and obviously they want to, and they know that this has been happening, as we know, for some time, some decades, and they're just wondering, oh, what can be done about this? And they say, oh, especially the child said, well, I'm just like too young, I cannot do anything, I don't have any power with me to do anything here. So, Gregory, is there any such help possible? Can anybody really ask? I mean, I know it's a man-made situation, because obviously it wasn't just like a natural disaster. It was sort of some deliberate actions that have resulted, people's decisions turning into this sort of fight. But then others seem to have been caught who are not directly involved. The children, for example. And let's say the leaders have made decisions, and then it has led to this sort of situation. So my question is, Gregory, can prayer help in this situation? And yes, especially for children. Let me just keep it as that question for right now. Can prayer help in this situation?
Of course, prayers, genuine prayers, pure prayers, will always receive a response. That cannot be ruled out at all. However, the response to these prayers may be very different from what their expectations are. The general advice, which one had alluded to when considering the Lord's Prayer, where it is said, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we have forgiven those who trespass against us." One thing which a person must learn, just as they themselves had gone through trials and tribulations, which trials and tribulations have arisen from the decisions made by others, which decisions have now consequences. Whoever has gone through such, it should be well hammered within their souls never to do that which will make it impossible for others to live in peace. Like it's been said before, for peace and harmony to reign in a neighborhood, the inhabitants of that neighborhood must adopt an inner attitude of all for one and one for all. One might also rephrase it as love thy neighbor as thyself. For all human spirits started as spirit gems. They have come here to experience. So from whichever party the oppressed or the so-called oppressor, they must realize that just as they consider themselves to have the upper hand, so are others who wish to experience just like themselves. This happened in many of the wars that you have that human spirits have precipitated. The worst came in the so-called Second World War, in which many people were targeted to be wiped out, in which rights were not even accorded to them. Whoever has experienced such a scenario must make it clear to themselves never, ever to inflict such punishment, such wickedness on others. An old proverb, whoever has never learned from the past will have to repeat it. So whoever is the aggressor must learn that life on earth, the inhabitants on earth, is one for all and off. For many will find that those they are throwing bombs at, shooting at, are their brothers. But because the bandage hasn't fallen from their eyes, they interpret the enemy as the other person. As many may know, man is his own worst enemy.
Thank you so much for this explanation, Gregory, and your answer there. It, let's say, puts everybody on the same level and same ground, rather than, like you say, us and them. People think, oh, he's the enemy, and vice versa. And then, of course, you continue to fight. But when you say you're a brother, then there's a totally different picture. And hopefully, people will wake up to this realization. Then, peace can only come from that. Once they move to this understanding. Now, I want to follow up again a little bit more on prayer, Gregory. Sometimes it's said that people ask, but I know you sort of have covered it already, but I think I just want to ask it specifically now. Just basically, some people ask, or let's say pray, and they get no results. So why is that?
It is true that many have asked in form of prayer. However, in their expectations, they had no results. That does not mean that there were no responses. As at the time of the human soul asking, it must have, one way or the other, achieved a measure of purity and humbleness at that particular time. When one considers that something is after its life, and it now knows that considering all the human cleverness, it cannot move forward. It now accepts that it needs to forget, push away all those things that holds it down. And in humility, in purity, it makes a request, a dire request. In that state of mind, its request rises. And before long, depending on the channels available, there are responses. But do not forget, within the twinkle of an eye, that human personality who just asked to be rescued from a dire situation can change and consider very different things, such that when the responses then come, they do not find the necessary environment of that same purity that it needs to be able to fulfill wholeheartedly. That means the response do not reach the personality. It is because that personality has changed as quickly to something else. So when there is a change of state of the requester, one should not expect that the intensity of the response will be as expected, because that personality has already, by changing his inner attitude, sort of blocked the responses from reaching it. There is another situation in which that which the petitioner has made, when considered on a holistic way, could be detrimental to it. And therefore, that prayer is not answered as he had expected. So there are many scenarios when some of the things we ask for does not come to us, because there are times we ask for that which is so dangerous. And in simplicity, one would not expect one's father to grant to him or her that which is not of benefit. That which is of benefit is what is granted. And sometimes that which is of benefit is not to grant that particular wish. Very simply, it may be that the strong wish of the petitioner is to find a gun to shoot any person around the neighborhood because someone has nicked their things. So when or if or should a person wish to pray at all, it must be that which touches it very deeply, not superficially, that you ask. Instead of you to walk down and get your food, you ask that the Lord Almighty should be like a slave to you and make sure that everything is prepared for you so that you don't need to exert yourself.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. Another question came in my mind about prayer. We've talked about the Lord's Prayer, and we know there are other, you could say, set prayers that people have been given in different teachings and religions, and which are said that is set regularly, like I say Sunday for the Lord's Prayer, and other places, other teachings and religions have a different day, or even number of times in a day. So what I want to ask you, Gregory, those set prayers, when we read them or when we make those prayers, they may not be so heartfelt as when we make a prayer with a request, need. You talked about a need, a dire need. So when we do these set prayers at a particular time, which are set, would say as well, sort of regularly, can that have the same impact when you have where you have a more dire when you have a, let's say, deeper request, like urgent request, because you can see that you wouldn't put we need to talk about the process of how the prayer works. You talked about humility and purity. So can one say these set prayers in the same level of purity and humility when there's not a dire need for some request?
Well, a counter question might be helpful to answer it. How many a time do you find someone that has disciplined itself in such a way that it always remains humble before asking. Many a time it is very difficult for man to sort of put itself in a state where whatever is uttered is heartfelt. Because you will find once it becomes regular, everything is then crammed and rattled off. Most of these then become an intellectual way of approaching him who is sacred. And such prayers, if at all one would call them prayers, for what is referred to now as prayers, are requests, always requests. Before one starts making a request, one must be humble, or one must prepare the environment around one such that when responses come, is able to recognize them. That has never been the case. For many, only just stay, they remove themselves from the essence of that particular prayer because they haven't themselves. They only want to fulfill the canon laws which have been put in there by the human intellect. In the morning, I must do this. In the afternoon, I must do this. In the evening, I must do this. And then they go around with all sort of beads, roll them in their hands, but their focus is never there. It's on something else. The advice is one should not make oneself a hypocrite. You are supposed to be focused. You are saying one thing, and deep within you, you are doing another thing. Such an activity will not make that which is most sacred to you rise.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I've got another question coming, but before I ask that, dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrusheen. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to have a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MEZNEBSATI.com. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, we are broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and then type in the search box Bless Radio 1 space live stream. Again, that's the number 1, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 space live stream. And you can also listen to the recording of this show and other shows in the past by again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, and then space Grail Message, RAIL Message, MESSAGE, and then the topic of the show for tonight's show, it is Ask and it shall be given unto you. Ask and it shall be given unto you. If you do have any questions or comments with regard to tonight's topic, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 07939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it's 00447939641958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, in the last question, we're talking about you could say the regular prayers, the set prayers, which are given in many teachings and religions. And you said that, many of us, when you do it, it's like you're doing it out of habit. And there's no way every time you say this prayer, you are going to be humble or pure. You could be rattling them off, as you said. So, and then that's like a hypocrite. You're asking the Lord for something, or you're saying something to the Lord, and you're rattling them off without really any deep thought about it. Unlike you might have another type of prayer where you have like a specific request, which is really deeply, you wish that request, you're really wanting this. So my question on this, Gregory, is then when you are in this, I don't want to say people are hypocrite, but in quotes being hypocritical, in terms of your rattling off the prayers, should one stop, not say this prayer then? Just stop it, and only when one is really ready and feeling, just a little bit like when you have that urge for some request, maybe you should only say the prayer when you're in this, that you're in this humble, pure, humble, I don't want to use the word mode, but in the humble approach. So should one not pray, Gregory, any of those prayers if one is not in this humble, feeling?
If there exists no deep urging, stay away from it, for in that scenario, it is a complete waste of time and energy. Take the case when one is in dire need. The case of something happening so suddenly and you cry out. For many, they do not search for these stipulated prayers of the religions. They speak right from deep within themselves, from their hearts. Those ones that spring up from man's intuitions, that is the right one, because it is not tied to the rigidity which has been tied to human words, for it springs from deep within.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. And I got another question following from what you've said. I was thinking those set prayers, which may be set at a particular interval, let's say if it's Islam, they pray 5 times in a day, or that's what is required. And others maybe once a week, or maybe more than once a week. I was wondering, Gregory, I know you've said that the prayer should be heartfelt or with humility. I was wondering, Gregory, when those prayers have been set for, let's say, 5, whatever number of times it is in a day or in a week, maybe that was set in this pattern because for us to practice, I use the word, I have to say that in quotes in a way, but to make us to get us to this humble attitude. It could be humble attitude. Would I be correct to say that's by repeating yourself, even though the first three times maybe you say it, you will not be in a humble state, but maybe the fourth time, because of your practicing, you would reach this humble state. So that's my question, Gregory.
It would be completely wrong to advise such at this time. For when those were contemplated, the people who were involved were at a particular stage of maturity. And as they matured through their activities, like considering a house which is being built. When a house is being built, one requires props to move from one place to another, to climb stairs to another. However, once one has recognized the building, the structure, these props are removed. What is needed by the human personality, like was discussed at the beginning, is the opening up of one's intuition to be able to recognize a situation which is akin to the bandage falling, to recognize that which you yourself must do, but not to become like automatons. That means they follow a particular regularity, which regularity does not touch the inner personality. And they say, okay, maybe if it doesn't now, it will do, maybe after the second or the third or fourth or fifth time, and some will even make it differently. That is not what creation demands. Creation demands, or nature demands, that the human personality must strive to be awake, to recognize what the laws of creations are, and to be able, through its activities, to ensure there is harmony. Only through such can you have a spiritualized activity here on earth. The time spent on reciting things, which recitation does not touch the inner man, is wasted. Whereas you may find that in the activity one is engaged in, if one focuses and make it a gratitude for being granted the opportunity to be engaged in such upbuilding activity, then that upbuilding beneficial activity is a prayer of gratitude. Then the personality does not need to ask for anything extra before it asks. The answer is already staring at the face. It only needs to go forward confidently before it now goes forward courageously. That is what is expected. Not to be asking, all right, through all sorts of formulated prayers, and is unable to take any step. Some have made it in such a way that they spend all time, the whole of their earth life, on asking. And never forget, once one has asked and is able to recognize the response in the right way, it is one's duty to make use of the response for his or her benefit and for the benefit of all in the neighborhood. Like we said, one for all and all for one. If, however, you spend your time in all sort of formulated, in quotes, prayers, how would you find time through reflection to be able to recognize that these are the responses to your prayer and make use of it for your own benefit and for the benefit of others? That vanishes automatically. Therefore, it's not helpful for many to go along that direction, for their earth lives to be wasted on that which does not rise anywhere.
Thank you, Gregory, for that. I was thinking, actually, let me, before I go into this other question, there's a question I've got from a listener actually. It says, Jesus has said that the Father already knows your needs before you are concerned about them desperately. So why must we still ask? I'll just say that question again. Jesus had said that the Father already knows your needs before you are concerned about them desperately. So why must we still ask?
Because the human spirit does not even know what its needs are. And for many, they ask for clarity to be able to recognize what these needs are. And that is why the response to a particular query, a particular question, is such that the human personality must strive to understand it aright.
Thank you for that. You mentioned gratitude, and and of course, you could say everything that we receive, it is, everything is received for us. We don't really, nature brings things to us, our food, our weather, where we live. It's, yes, we might build a house, but all the materials and everything in the end comes from the nature. So yes, you can say we should always show gratitude to the Creator. So yes, Gregory. So again, it sounds like a repetition of a previous question, but so should we show this gratitude like regularly, in a prayer or however, in a regular way, or should it be just in the moment when we just somehow appreciate that, oh yes, this is a blessing from the Creator? So should we give thanks or gratitude in a moment when we sense this blessing, or of and give gratitude then, or should it be like at a set regular time?
The most beautiful gratitude is pure joy. That joy and happiness that the receiver enjoys. And that is why it's called joy. But pure joy. Pure joy is only appreciated when you recognize that just as you yourself have received joy, that joy must be spread around. And like we mentioned earlier, for those in your neighborhood, for which one may refer to as neighbors. By neighbors could be human spirits like yourself, and there are also animistic forces or forces of nature. That joy has to be spread, one for all for one. Then strength and stretches the human personality in its maturity. In paradise, that is continuous. For man to arrive in paradise, it has to know how to sow in joy and also reap in joy. That is what the human spirit first have to learn. So it cannot say and then spreads ruinous activities to its neighbors. That will not be gratitude.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. You made me think of the birds singing, all beautiful, and then we human beings can join in with our own singing. And as you said, joy, pure joy in our own way that we express, however we express it, you can say we also do paintings. I mean, there's just so many for expressing the joy. As you said, all for one and one for all, not just the fellow human beings, but actually with nature, joining with nature. So sharing that joy with nature. And you might have thought, my joy is only going to be really recognized by the fellow human beings. But actually, when you're giving this pure joy, it's also reaching out to these nature beings and other beings. And so it's like mutual working together, basically. Which, as I say, we might be neglecting and not really realizing. This is a true blessing, for everyone. So thank you for that. Forgive me, Gregory. I just can't remember if I've asked this already, but if I just put it to you, I think I have asked this question about our needs. The Creator knows our needs already. Yeah, why would we ask if the Creator already knows our needs? But I do remember asking this question. Apologies for that. So. Okay, yes. In the Lord's Prayer, Gregory, Christ said, "Give us this daily bread." And so, so I would like to ask that why? Because in a sense, we always have the daily bread. So why do we ask for our daily bread? Give us our daily bread.
Like was discussed at the beginning, the mission of Christ is basically a spiritual one, and therefore his expressions must be interpreted as such. Many a person recognize what bread is. Bread grants one the strength. It is food to carry on. So in that sense, it's as if one should be asking for strength to carry on the activities of the day. This day can also be extended to this week, this month, or this year, or in our whole lifetime. Grant us the strength to be able to recognize, for just as breath will grant you strength to your physically, also this will grant you the power for further activities and recognition. That experiencing which will help the spirit to mature in the right way or in accordance with the laws of creation through which it first came into existence. It should not be taken for granted, for only he himself or herself who bestirs themselves vigorously are able to recognize things as they move along. And there are many a time when one feels tired physically, and when one consider it on the spiritual side, you will find there are times you just feel down. You really cannot explain why you are down. Such times could be when the responses of one's activities, maybe in this earth life, maybe in previous earth lives, they arrive in such a way, and many persons seem confused. But having said that, beseeching the Lord to grant you the strength to overcome the challenges. In doing that, you find that first you have brought in humility, knowing fully well you yourself cannot see the overall picture. Hence, you asked to give us this day that strength which will enable us to withstand the challenges which we ourselves in our daily activities are likely to go through. The challenges, not only the earthly challenges, but also the non-earthly challenges. Just as every moment we breathe in and we breathe out, just like we go to bed and wake up. Which human spirit can predict what could happen within the next 24 hours, 48 hours? Because it is uncertain, because it knows it cannot predict the future, it beseeches the Lord to grant it that strength that it needs, which will be granted in accordance to its purity and humility. Such is the balance that creation offers.
Thank you again, Gregory, for this answer. It just keeps us on the alert, really, that, like you said, don't take things for granted. Yes, the things are happening, let's say, daily, which you are used to, but without the granting of the power, we can't fulfill anything. We can't do anything. So it's like recognizing always in purity and humility that where this power is coming from, and then applying it and using it for whatever daily work we are doing, but always acknowledging it so that, and requesting it, not taking it for granted. And especially when you said that, yes, you don't know what tomorrow will bring. What will happen tomorrow, you don't know. So thank you for that. Another thing, Gregory, is sort of going back to something earlier you said about when we were talking about making requests and your prayers, and then it doesn't meet your expectations, and then you refer to that to do with our being attitude, you could say, with our humility and so on. So what I want to say on that, Gregory, say now that you have this humbleness in your prayer, and then you now repeat the same request that before you were disappointed, and does that mean that now the request will be answered? Yeah.
Because it is an assumption from the human spirit through its intellectual calculations to assume that their expectations must be met in the way they themselves have demanded. Every request as such, which many will call prayer, is a demand. The human spirit can never make demands for a very simple reason, which one will state. Right from its inception, the human spirit as a spirit gem made a request, which request in crying out wants to become conscious and self-conscious. With that request, the structures of creation was put in place when one had let there be light, in which first the spiritual kingdom came into effect. Thereafter, the animistic, before you now have the world of matter. All because of that request, which was made even as an unconscious human spirit or as an unconscious spirit gem. It's a long process of erecting structures within this enclave, which one may refer to as creation. The same human spirit is now provided with the process such that it can become conscious, that it had to travel away because the activities, the speed of activities in its hometown is such that it's unable to become conscious and had to first traverse through the animistic realm and then come to the world of matter. That was a massive sacrifice. And now the human personality is here on earth, still making requests. What must be understood? That which the human spirit needs has been carefully placed there before the earth existed. The world of matter has already come into being. ethereal matter that come into being. And then it took millions of years to prepare the earth for the arrival of the human spirit to mature. Therefore, not understood, that which the spirit needs had been put in place to be able to live as an unconscious spirit germ and go back as a self-conscious spirit germ. A self-conscious personality, developing those personalities which had been implanted within it. After that, it only needs whilst here on it, to follow the rules very carefully, the laws of creation, to enable it to mature, just like all others who, like him, left paradise. Now, when one looks at the overall picture, the holistic picture, what is it that the human spirit needs, which has not been placed there, even before they asked for it? It has been carefully placed, but because they have intellectually moved about, not allowing their spirits to be opened to perceive of all the different processes, the holistic processes, they have put themselves in a position where they are unable to receive of the grace that has already been granted them. Yet they still demand. All the human spirit needs to do is to open itself to recognize of the processes of these laws in creation. For it to do that, it needs to be on the alert in spirit and alert in body. That is all it needs. All others are distractions.
Thank you so much for that, Gregory. It just shows this process. Life operates in this world, this creation. It's there's an order. It always needs to be recognized what this order is, and to fully appreciate, you could say, how God, the grace of God, that we receive as human beings. So thank you for bringing that out. Dear Blessed Radio is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of this show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushing. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And you're listening to us on blessradio1.com. That's the number one, blessradio1, the number one.com. Also, we're broadcasting on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com and then type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, again the number one, space live stream. Bless Radio 1, the number one, space live stream. Also, you can listen to the recording of this show and our previous shows, again on YouTube, go to youtube.com and in the search box, type in Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, Grail Message. And then after that, the topic of the show, the title, the topic tonight is Ask and it shall be given unto you. Ask and it shall be given unto you. And if you would like to ask any questions or have any comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 07939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as I said, the topic for tonight is ask and it shall be given unto you. And usually at the beginning of the show I go through the different words in the title, in the dictionary to understand those words. And now there's a word there, ask. We know what is ask, and it shall be given unto you. So there's a word here, shall, Gregory, and sometimes people use the word will, as you would say, but shall and will are actually different, and I wanted to just explore that. So in the dictionary, I looked up the word shall, and the meaning I found, it is, there are two meanings given here. It says, in the first person, expressing the future tense. And the example they gave is, this time next week, I shall be in Scotland. So that's basically saying something will happen next week in the future. And then the second meaning of shall, it has given, is expressing a strong assertion or intention. And the example they gave is, they shall succeed. So in this, the title tonight, which is Ask and it shall be given unto you, Gregory, looking at the dictionary meaning, something shall happen next week, in future, and the next other meaning was strong assertion or intention. So is that the word shall, is that the dictionary meaning that I've picked out, talked about, is that what is meant in this sentence, ask and it shall be given unto you?
It may sound a quibble in words. Once that expression shall is used, it only gives an overarching picture of depending on the conditions being met, then the response. And that was why in our discussions, one mentioned that there will be a response. The expectations of this response, the human spirit does not know. If it were said, ask and it will be given, it means therefore, in all definiteness, it's a certainty. That certainty is only conditioned that the human personality has asked aright. Whereas the shall gives the impression that depending on you, the petitioner, then if you stand aright in your asking and maintain that consistently, then you will receive that which will be beneficial for you. But like has been discussed, how many a person will ask now and will maintain that humility, humbleness, and simplicity. No sooner has he made a request, in a few moments he changes again to some other thing. And when the responses are not in accordance to his own personal expectations, then it changes. What should not be disposed of is that after asking, of course, there will be responses. These responses have to be considered also along the line of the requests which had been made in the past through one's definite activities. Some may call this one's karma. And once all these arrive, that does not mean that that particular request was not answered. It was answered. However, on meeting the personality, the state of that personality determine on how much he himself or herself is open to receiving that which it has requested for. So many things go into all this thing. But for the human spirit who remains steadfast, who remains consistent, many a time it will be that there is no need to ask for any specific thing, because why should you ask when the answer is already staring in your face? What you may then ask for is for you to use it aright, knowing fully well that which is beneficial to you, granted to you, gives you joy. And there are many people in your neighborhood who may not have matured as yourself or who have different needs. And in granting you this particular request, it will make you joyful and also be of joy to those in your neighborhood. However, what happens? Of course, one may receive this particular joy and withhold it from their neighbors. Then, along the line, they find that they have sunk and they now have to walk their way up again. For some, it's one step forward and 2 or 3 steps backwards. So this was the toing and froing of the human spirit, unable to make progress. Hence, the prayer of Christ, when he said, "Give us this day our daily bread." Give us that which we need to be able to overcome which challenges are on our path. That is part of what that prayer implies.
Thank you again, Gregory, for your answer. You've laid out again how life operates. There is a conditional. You make a request, or you basically how you are in a situation that's going to bring the result corresponding to that. The result will be a corresponding result to how you are. Your inner attitude, inner self. So yeah, in this you can see justice. You can see, you could say love as well. That you get what you deserve, what you put out, what you get. What you put in, you get out. So that reminds me of the laws of creation, Gregory, which you refer to many times, and I think it'll be appropriate now to share those laws with our listeners, these laws of creation and laws of nature. If you can describe them to us, Gregory.
It may be best for many a listener to make the work in the light of truth available for themselves, to be able to examine this work itself, therein that which they need or which the spirit of man needs will be found. Most of our discussions are based on these laws. It is true that one can describe them, one can talk about them, but it is of no use if many a listener do not avail themselves of the opportunities. For if one discusses, talks about the so-called sowing and reaping, it is superfluous, because everyone knows that for one to be alive, one needs to be able to breathe in and breathe out. That means there is a reciprocity. That is how it is. If there were no reciprocity, then how would balance come about? So these things are self-evident. They do not need others to verify them or to agree or disagree with them. It is not an intellectual exercise. It is that which the spirit needs to understand. All the operations of the activities in life or in nature are conditioned by this reciprocity. The same thing one may talk about when you have the case of attraction. The problem has always been these things are mentioned and they are intellectualized. Far from it. For two things can only be attracted if there is something common between them. There must be something, that which is common. One will say that which is homogeneous, of the same type. Many will have to examine that. And many have come to the conclusion that those things which are heavy, they sink, whereas those which are light, they rise. This is not magic. This is not science. Each personality experiences it. What one has done is to avoid the continuous enumeration of this, but to show in simple sentences what it is all about. To have a complete picture of which there are no gaps, then it is necessary to examine the work itself.
Thank you so much for that, Gregory. I just want to refer the listeners to the, if you are interested in getting a copy of the Grail Message or want more information on the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MEZNEBSATI, AGE.com. We almost come to the end of the show, Gregory. So I just want to say, we say, ask and shall be given unto you. And when I was reading from Luke's chapter 11, it said, seek, it continued, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. So when we say that, what is it that we are supposed to be seeking? I ask, it's in a way, it's obvious, it can be our needs, but what should we be seeking?
Seeking for clarity of the processes in nature. That is what spiritually the human spirit seeks for. And it continues to improve on that seeking through its vigorous activities.
Thank you for that. And so what I will do now, as we do quite often in our end of our show, I'm going to read from from the beginning of the Grail Message. It's titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abdrushi. Just to remind everybody, if you are interested in this, is just what I've read is the foreword to the Grail Message, which is entitled For Your Guidance. If you are interested in getting a copy of the Grail Message, or want to have more information on the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MEZNBSAGE.com. Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners as we have come to the end of our show tonight?
Well, wishing them a beautiful week.
Thank you for that. And dear listeners, thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show. You found it enlightening. And as Gregory has been encouraging, I also encourage you to pick up the Grail Message, to examine it for yourselves, and you'll find for yourself, let's say, the wonderful knowledge and understanding of this life that we are blessed to experience. When we say ask, when it is said ask and shall be given unto you, it really becomes alive what this process of asking and receiving is actually. It's we may look at it superficially, but really to appreciate it properly, you really have to see the process. It is truly a wonderful blessing. So I wish you all a great week, and we'll be back again next Tuesday as usual with another new topic, which we'll discover then. So I wish you all the best, everyone. Have a great week. God bless. Take care. All the best. Goodbye.